All right, guys, welcome back to Dads Against the Narrative, the show where we cut through all the noise, challenge the status quo, talk real talk about family, life, and the world all around us. Today, we are joined by special guest Pat Barber, or the Fathers Guild on Instagram, you may know him. And my co-host Devin Linder is back again. Devin, period, the period one. Thank you guys for being here. And as usual, we're going to jump right into it, Pat. I have one question for you, and that's it. What was
Sure.
your one red pill event that kind of broke you out of the system, that broke you out of thinking in a programmed way and saying, hey, I don't want to do that anymore?
Yeah, man, you asked me this question when you told me you wanted me to come on, and I sat there and I thought about it, and it's like I've kind of been my whole life a little bit like that. Never felt like I quite fit in to any one thing, so it was always questioning constantly the things that I believed. And I've got a number of moments that just changed my mind about things. One that stands out, way back was when I was like 19 and I was at a gym and I was talking to one of the trainers, and the trainer mentioned to me like, something I was starting to affect my nutrition, and I was changing it around. And I said something about like, oh yeah, if I want to get lean, I'll like drop the fat intake over here. And he's like, why would you do that? And he just questioned it like, so in the like, hey, why would you do that? Why don't you mess around with the carbs? They have more an effect on insulin. And I was like, what are you talking about? And just like in my head, there was this paradigm of fat made you fat. And I'd never had that challenged. And it was such a narrative that through most of my youth was something that was told to me. And, as we all know, it's not a black and white sort of deal with, especially with nutrition and health and stuff. But that was a moment that stuck out as like, what do you mean that's not what I should affect? And he's like, no, check this out over here. And it wasn't like this is the only way to do it, but it was just like my entire vision of what nutrition was immediately challenged by a person who was an authority. And I was like, huh, there's another side to these stories. So that was one point that jumps out at me that kind of changed the narrative for me and caused me to start to question. And I've been questioning ever since. But I would say I kind of took your question and brought it into, for me as a man and as a father, what's one moment that shocked me enough to make me step back? I don't know, red pill myself, where get out of my own narrative of like, this is who I am and this is how I'm at. And it was a moment where I lost it over something stupid. I was with my son, and he was not being good to his little brother. And it was my oldest son, and he's a great kid. And this was years ago, but he had this balloon that he wasn't sharing. And he was like being a total turd in like kind of a playful way to his little brother, but it was going too far and he kept pushing. And I had taken the balloon and I was like, no, dude. And he pushed again. And I just looked at him and just smashed the balloon and just popped it like right in front of his face. And I was like, nobody gets it. And I just watched his like the light in his eyes just die and like how
Yeah.
horrific that experience was for him. And, my initial thought was like, this was deserved. Like, you deserved that. And then I
Right.
stepped back and was like, oh, that was horrific. Like, what am I doing? Like, I was not in control at that point. And I would say that for me is my red pill for myself moment to be like, stuff has to change. Like that was not in control. That was not like if I think about what I want to do, like what I want my relationship to my with my son to be and what I want him to carry into the world as a man, like that's not it. And so that was my moment for me that has kickstarted a long-standing introspective relationship with myself. So that's what I would say.
Bro, that's no that first one, I'm gonna handle the first one first, and then I can pass it over to you, Devin. But that first one,
Yeah.
dude, you hit it kind of hard for me because it hit me in a way that like I was like, yeah, bro, my dad, we grew up watching Lee Haney and
Yeah.
Mr. Olympia, I think we're a similar age, aren't we, Pat? I'm 44.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah, yeah. And so like Lee Haney was the man in the 80s. And my dad was lifting. Like he kind of got me into lifting, but he didn't really know shit about diet. He's like, dude, as long as you're eating sugar, it's all right. It has no fat in it. So like when
Yeah.
you're saying the fat thing, I'm like, dude, this is
Yeah.
literally what I was programmed with too. Is like you can eat Skittles and Twizzlers and whatever fucking else. As long as it
Totally.
says no fat, my dad was
Yeah,
like,
you're good, man.
good.
Yeah.
Awesome. I never, but no one ever told me different, you know, like I already like, because 9/11 happened and then I got into bodybuilding after 9/11.
Right.
And then I had a trainer who was like questioning everything. He's like, dude, you're eating totally fucking wrong, bro. Like,
Well, I think the powerful thing is like, especially and take the fitness world for instance, the trainer who comes up and hey, you're totally wrong. Like they might have a sense of rightness to what they're going to say, but there's by no means one way to do it, especially when it comes to nutrition and training. There's like hundreds of ways to do it right. And so like when people come so hot at like this is what you got to do, it's like they're in this day and age of social media, it's everywhere where they're just trying to sell you on whatever they're offering because they have their
mhm.
unique slant. But it's like it's one of my least favorite industries. But it if you start to see through the bullshit, you can start to question everything. And I think that that's the fun part is you start to go like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then you go like find research that supports like 50 other different things. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe let me put this into context and maybe I should try this out. Maybe I shouldn't, like, and that experimentation with self, I think that's the most powerful takeaway from all of that is not necessarily like, here is the right way, but dude, are you examining what you're doing and actually being like, is this, does this make sense? Does this work for me at this point in my life right now? Because that's what's meaningful, not like ticking a box and science says it's like, no, dude, come on, let's have a conversation around this with myself.
That
Yeah.
I feel like that's extremely important. Just like how you were saying, Pat, when it comes down to it, like not everything works for everybody. And the reason
Totally.
why is because like we all have different experiences. We come from a lot of people come from different dynamics, different backgrounds.
Yep.
Like genetics are different when
Yep.
it comes to like nutrition. Like some people can't eat beef and
Yeah.
beef protein and shit like that and get fucking ripped or get fucking huge. Some people
Totally.
may have to, deal with seafood and shit like that. Some people
Yeah.
may don't even fucking. I've seen people not eat fucking meat at all, and they're fucking absolutely shredded, and they have so much energy. They're full of vitality. So it's like whatever works for you and whatever within your realm of experience that you can like you can work with and shit like that. I feel like that is the direction you should go. And the only way you can get to that point of understanding what works for you is if you do the work your fucking self. I think
Totally.
that's the best book you can read is a book about yourself.
Totally. But being open to being wrong about yourself is the
Mm,
number one, man. Cause like even within that book, there's gonna be times where you're like, oh, I figured it out. And then
yep.
you're doing stuff, and then someone challenges that idea, and you're like, huh,
Mm,
maybe I should try that. Because I think too often we hunker down in our own bullshit, our own ideology over self, and be like, nah, these are what I figured out to be right. And it's like, well, try the other thing. Like, be open to it. And what's interesting is, hopefully nobody hears, and what you and I are saying is like everything works for everyone. It's like, no, 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 no. Like there are
mm,
things that work really well amongst most people that professionals will speak to, but there's always unique cases, and there's always things that stand just outside that, and there's always
that part.
a time and place for doing something a little like, tweaked in a different way. And I have my beliefs around stuff, but if someone presents a really compelling argument around it, I'm gonna be like, huh,
Mm,
I wonder where that sits, like let me put this into the context of my life and
yep.
and not just blindly accept it, but like what could I take away from this? And I think that that's huge. And I think it's interesting, like your platform, Devin, like the way you speak is you're like, here's, 60 seconds to cover it's 10 years of therapy, like things like that, where it's like you distill down a ton of information to very specific points that someone could look at and be like, that's it. That's
Mm,
all it is. But that's not even what you're saying. You're giving like
yep.
a deep insight, like get to the core meaning behind big pieces that people should take and then apply to their life in their own way. And it might not be exactly that point, but due to the nature of
Yep.
social media, we got to boil it down into something that's punchy like that. Where
Yep.
I bet certain people call BS. And if they were even
Oh yeah.
remotely insightful, they would talk to you and you'd be like, no, man, of course it doesn't work like that for everyone. But this works super well for so many people. And here's what I took away from it. And here's those reasons why. So
Yep.
I find it the whole social media space and this like information age is fascinating. As long as you're, somewhat reflective and can apply it to yourself, and then also willing to be wrong and like, maybe I don't have the answer.
bro, so many people. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem. Right? That last sentence, that's from me and Devin have
That
talked
part.
about this so much. People can't be wrong anymore. Like
Sure.
I think their algorithm is only like it's so nearsighted and it's only tunnel vision to like exactly who they are because like the algorithm is now fed off of who the hell they are and they know who they
Mhm.
are exactly. So it just feeds them and they're like, I'm right, I'm right. Every single thing they watch, they're double down, triple down, and it's like,
Sure.
bro, take a step
Sure.
back, meditate and reflect a little bit because you're just in this echo chamber of life, man, that's not taking you anywhere, you
Well,
know?
yeah, and
Yep.
I think too it's hard for me when I watch even like intelligent creators who like have a lot to say. Sometimes I see these really big majoring in the minors because that's something I'm always going back to of like when we talk about moving the needle in a human being's life and we talk about
Yeah.
actually eliciting change, there are some people who need really esoteric woo-woo stuff to make the change. There are like where they're like,
Yeah.
I need to go with the oils and I need to do the like
Yep.
ayahuasca trip to make that thing happen. And I need to like they need to head to these places where it's like they're doing this thing that's like so big and profound, or they're doing something that's like ridiculous and out of there. And they're like, yeah, butthole sunning. That's what it is. I need to do that. And that's going to move the needle for me. And you get these people like, or semen retention or whatever the hell it is. Like people get into these worlds where they're like digging into the esoteric when I'm like, dude, are you eating well and sleeping well? And they're like, no,
No.
I don't even know what you're talking about. And it's like, it's just this hierarchy is off in because there's this nature of like displaying the bizarre and being like, I found it. You need to buy my oil. And it's like, dude, you this guy doesn't understand prioritizing the love of his life over work. And you're telling him he needs to buy an oil? Like that might be the case for a person who's got all their other shit in line, but they like and so that's where I always go is like when I'm trying to think about helping people, I'm always like, okay, well what are the big levers? Like are you what's your mindset like? Do you have a growth mindset? Does that even exist for you? Do you understand that training needs to happen otherwise you die? And it doesn't need to be anything specific, but you don't train, you use don't use it, you lose it, you die. And then
Yep.
you need to eat, you need to fuel your system in a way that makes like some basic sense, like not overeating and then trying to eat whole foods to get micronutrient coverage. And then are you like trying to sleep to the best of your ability and like communicate well with the people in your life? And like these are like big, dumb, simple things, but like most people have none of these and they're thinking about saunas. And I'm like, okay, I love my sauna. I do my sauna every day. But you
Yeah.
need to sort your big, simple, non-sexy things out long before we address these saunas. And maybe the sauna helps you. I don't know. Like I get lost in it because I'm like, so much of this stuff means nothing. It means nothing.
Yeah.
And but it could
Hmm.
mean something for someone. It could be the thing that kickstarts them. Maybe they start with butthole sunning and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I should check my diet, you know? And you're like, well, I don't care how you got there, I'm so glad that you're checking your diet, you know? Like
Oh,
it's
fuck.
wild. So I don't know how much.
That's
Yeah.
Pat, that I'm glad you said that because that's what really got me moving my needle as far as like what was going on internally and emotionally. I did go down that like that one rabbit hole, just like that esoteric woo woo rabbit hole. And then, I had I found my way, I guess, back to like not even I wouldn't say normalcy, but like to the core of who I was actually.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, I'm not like, yeah, I do ground and stuff like that. I go outside barefoot, but I'm not gonna go hug a tree. Like, why was I doing that? That didn't even feel like me for real. Like, I'm not gonna hug a tree and talk to a tree, but I am gonna be one with nature. Like, I do like
Absolutely.
being in nature. That's very primal, I think, to any man will want to, be in nature, even though we
Totally.
we try to act like we don't sometimes. But like I started learning that, and that did start moving the needle. Being vegan did started like
Yes.
moving the needle for me to actually understand. Hey, I should probably eat more food that grows like from the ground, or at least I should know where my food is actually freaking coming from. Like
Yep.
that makes a lot more sense than just eating stuff that comes out of a fast food joint. And I don't know how it was prepared or where the food was even sourced from. So it
Right.
was like that being vegan for I believe it was 6 years. It helped me
Yes.
a lot. It helped me understand,
Yeah.
nutrition. Now I'm not like I was like, bro, I love steak and I love like my eggs and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely. So when you said that, like sometimes people do have to go to an extreme through an
Yeah.
extreme pathway to just start moving that needle to like
Yes.
bettering themselves, and that made so much sense. You put it in the words to where I was trying to explain that to my wife, like about everything when I was doing my like self audit,
Yeah.
at my big moment. So
Well,
yeah,
and
that's dope.
I'm so glad that you had that experience, man, because like that to me is like a prime example of like, look at where you are now as a man. And would you ever have been able to be there should you have not gone down some kind of weird channels, like sometimes you got to go hug a tree. Sometimes you got to go do these things to be like, well, I need to respect nature, but I don't necessarily need to be hugging trees. Like grounding is a very real thing. Walking around with your shoes off, being in nature, like there's a certain sense of awe that inspires that is unparalleled in the human mind compared to anything else. So like all
Yep.
of these things that are like that's the hard part is a lot of the esoteric and woo-woo stuff has a core of reality, of a deep core of it. So
Definitely.
I'm never too bummed when I see people trying and just going out there. But when people make their entire identity that and they don't come
Mm,
back to like, hey, let's just see like is this moving the needle for me? Like or is this all performative? And I think that that's
yep.
where I struggle in our whole self-help space is like people are majoring in the minors. They're not looking at the big movers, these things that like do I have a strong ability to be introspective? Am I journaling? Am I eating well? Am I sleeping well? Do I train?
Yep.
Um, I don't know. Like, I think it's important that these weird things exist because it might just stimulate you enough to go do it. But at the same time, when people make that their identity and they fail to be like, is this actually making my life better? And do I even have a metric for what my life being better is? Like, what does that mean to have a better life? Does that mean more money? Does that mean a better relationship? Does that mean I wake up at peace with myself? Like what? I don't know. I'm getting too rambly here, but I'm
Bro,
freaking it fires me
bro,
up because it's
Nah,
like this
I,
is
it,
all I think about. This is
I
what I
love it.
want dudes to do is like, dude, am I the man I could be? And am I at peace? And am I at the same time like stoked with who I am, but know that I could offer more? And what are those levers that I pull to offer more? And who can I impact? Because strong, capable fathers and men have such an impact on the world. And
Man,
dude, yeah.
Jack, you need some like sound effects. You need to hit like a button that says
bro, I don't even
like
have a
a bomb, like.
microphone. All right, let's start with a microphone, Devin. And Pat, you know what's crazy is I feel like the esoteric is like it did bring me and my wife into it. You know, we got into
I
frequency
know.
healing. My wife does Kundalini now, and like she's a womb healer. And
Yeah.
but
That's
but
real.
it was 2 years of veganism also
Yeah.
for us. And we look back, we're like, dude, how the hell were we vegans? It's crazy. And we went chasing. We went chasing like communities where we're like, all right, let's go to Costa Rica. And we went to
Yeah.
this permaculture um, woke community, and it was like, this is not it. This doesn't feel right. Went to Portugal, checked it out. The people were still kind of like, no, not our community. Came out of Mexico, and we're like, dude, we love Mexico, but it wasn't by surprise. It wasn't the community we were looking for. Like
Mm.
with the people that speak English, it was actually the Mexican culture that we
Mm.
really grew onto. And we're like, fuck, man, they're connected to the earth. They're talking
Yeah.
about Pachamama. They're talking about, just being true to who you are. God is within. And then I would meet some like Americans, like this one guy I had a one-on-one client, and he was just like, dude, he was addicted to ceremony. So he would be doing
Mm.
ayahuasca every other week, or, or doing, and you name it. He was doing Tepesco Huite, Changa,
Well,
ayahuasca.
he's like,
Like,
look at
on and
how
on.
awake I am. I need all this stuff every time. I'm like, no,
I'm
you're
like,
what's called an addict, my friend.
yes. I'm like, do you guys take time to like, come back to your consciousness and like allow some kind of change to resolve? And he's
Yeah.
like, no, man, I just go back into the unconscious and it helps me live. I'm like, what the fuck's that mean, bro? Because
Yeah.
I've done Tepesca Huite 3 times, and
Sure.
every time it's been like 6 to 8 months after, and I'm like, wow, I learned a lot from that, right? And
Yeah.
it's only like a 10 to 15 minute trip. It's really quick and it's
Sure.
super cool. I love it, but it's not something where I'd be like, dude, go do that. Everyone needs to do that. 100
Yeah.
times. Go like it makes no fucking sense. It's just another addiction. They took
What
one
was your what was your background again, Jack?
military.
Yeah. So like look at where you're coming from, right? So your mindset and where you're coming from and the nature of masculinity and the nature of where you were raised, like you needed a juxtaposition to that. You needed something that was going to knock you off of like this isn't all that masculinity could be. So your search makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
When we're brought up in a certain ideology or a framework that doesn't have room for something being very different, like if you find love and peace in anything that compels you in that other side, like obviously you're going to go seeking it. You're going to go head down the veganism route. You're going to head down like
Yep.
Mother Earth. Like it's necessary, and I think that that's necessary. And what it sounds like is you have this pendulum swing, right? You're over here, and then you're like, this is not where I want to be. So you seek stuff over here and you swing this way and you're like, oh, some of that was a little too far. And that's okay. Like that's the journey that we're on. And we go,
Yep.
let's come back to the center a little bit. And like that's that whole life process back and forth. But I'm so glad that you brought up the dude doing that every weekend as a client. I was on another podcast and the host brought that up. He's like, yeah, so I'm really into helping men. I'm doing this stuff. And he's like, I'm awake now from what I used to be. I've done 157 ayahuasca trips. And I was like, what? I'm like, bro, like, it's not you're not using it as a tool anymore. You're using it as a crutch. Like you're not using it as a thing to allow, like you're not giving yourself time to change. Like it was a fascinating psychological dynamic in that individual throughout the whole podcast that I was on. Keep going though.
It's wild.
Yeah.
People like they mask one thing for another thing. And remember, Devin, last week, didn't we talk about like just the basics? Where like people just skip the basics. Like,
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
I don't need to work out or eat healthy. I can just go and do fucking ayahuasca, and
Yeah.
it's gonna bring me closer to consciousness. Like, what the fuck are you
But it's
talking?
also not taking anything away from ayahuasca when we say that.
No,
You
no,
know,
no.
like
I'm for it.
there's some amazingly profound experiences that completely reshape
Yep.
human
Yeah.
beings' minds depending on
Yep.
the histories that they've had. And so I'm not trying to take anything away from that. And I'm not, that's not a trip that has been necessary for me yet in my life. And that's not a direction I see myself going right now. But I see it from afar and go, you know what? I see that I
Hmm.
know the type of person that's especially important for. And I'm
Yep.
open to that being like profound in a way that nothing else can touch, that can rewire the neuroplasticity in a way that any sort of therapy is not going to touch, or like maybe years and years of monkhood could. But at the same time, it's like wisdom given is not necessarily the same thing as wisdom earned, and there's a time frame associated with it. And I don't
Yeah.
know, there's a lot that goes into that my mind reels on.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it's a lot. I just genuinely like we talking about the basics, but like I think also when I listen to what Pat is talking about too, just kind of putting both of it together is you need to, like you were talking about the pendulum, you need to swing that pendulum all the way down to the other side to understand that you need to get back to the fucking basics. Like you need to be on the other side, like fuck. You know what? Yeah, that was a little too far. You know what?
Yeah.
Let me get back down to the things that really genuinely can bring me peace. And then you start learning, like, okay, well, yeah, I work out, or, okay, cool. I'm eating healthy. Okay, check. Cool. I'm getting sleep. Check. I'm hydrated. Check. I'm interacting. Oh, you know what? I do ignore my wife when she says X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm a little too stern. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's work on that. Let's work
Yeah.
on that. How do we work on that? What tools can I do to use to work on that? And
Yeah.
now you're looking at the ayahuasca, the journaling, the cold plunges, the saunas.
Yeah.
All of those things they can help. Those are tools, those are mediums, but who is the actual, like, where's the actual work coming from? It's coming from you. It's coming from your
Yeah.
brain power. And so,
Yeah.
like, when I look at these things and people say they do this or they do the toad or they do that and that's changed their life, I'm like, no, it's your brain power allowing you to create a new neural pathway by using this tool,
Yeah.
right? So that's how I look at it, is that we do need to get back to the basics, but certain tools can help us get us back there.
But think about the analogy of a tool is amazing. What's the only way that a tool works?
if we use it.
is if we use it. So like
Yeah.
that's the thing is like if we
Yep.
don't use it, it doesn't matter. And I think that that's
Exactly.
another thing with this self-help world that we're in right now is people consume a lot of information. They
Boom.
consume a lot of ideas. They're constantly being like watching videos or going on YouTube or they're listening to this podcast and they're like, "Yeah, I hear that." But then they don't do anything. And I'm like, like that doesn't work. That's like buying the tools but never building anything. Like you own them all, you know them all, but did you use them? Like it doesn't matter if you own the tool. You got to use the tool in order for it to work. And the only way and initially when you use a tool, you suck at using it. Like you ever try to use a new tool, it's like it sucks and you're bad at it. And the only way is through action. And I think that's the missing narrative, missing piece that I want to figure out for my social stuff is like what types of things can I say that cause people to take action, that cause people to actually use a tool that I'm talking about or that they heard that changes their life. What makes someone go from like I heard the idea to I'm now implementing the idea. I'm trying it out for my life. I'm modifying it for my life. I'm reflecting on that and I'm trying it again. And then all of a sudden, I'm a different person. Like, what is that tool? Because that's the only thing that means anything. Like, we could read all the books about this, but it doesn't matter until we do something. And that's what my brain constantly reels on is like, how do I get people to do it?
Take action.
Yes.
I think we can never, and this is like my perspective on this, that we can never get people to actually take action. We can only deeply inspire them in hopes that they take action, right? Because
Yes.
inspiration is a exceptionally highest, like it's one of the highest forms of like vibration for me is like inspiration.
Mm.
And when I find inspiration in things, like it encourages me to take that action or start thinking down that newer pathway. And so like when even I put certain things out there for people, I might say something that's like for somebody to disagree with. And
Yeah.
now you're going researching to disagree with me. And
Hmm.
that's perfect. Like whenever people like get offended that I see big time creators get offended that someone's disagreeing with them or men in general, no, like that's the point. High
Totally.
testosterone levels, like we're supposed to disagree at certain things. You know why? Because it opens your perspective. Now
Yeah.
you have to think about how you're going to respond and what your disagreement is going to be. So it
Yeah.
challenges your mind to actually develop and formulate a response. And so
Yeah.
sometimes even through the disagreement, people can take action down a neural pathway because maybe it be pride, like I'm not about to let this dude show me up. Now you're
Yeah.
now you're trying to do things a lot better than you did before because you're not
Yeah.
trying to get shown up. Or maybe you're like, dang, this dude said something that really like it stuck with me. And at first I disagree with it, but now I did my research and you know what? I'm
Yeah.
gonna, I'm gonna try this and see what's going on. So I
Yep.
feel like sometimes you gotta hit people where it hurts. Like I have a tattoo artist and I got a tattoo on my neck, right? And this is like, the whole story behind it is inspired by a miscarriage by my wife. The thing is, when I went to get the tattoo on my neck, right, he just jumped out and said it to me right away. He said, "You're fucking up." I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you're fucking up because a lot of people when they get tattoos or talk about jobs and stuff like, oh, it's unprofessional or whatever. But he's like, you're fucking up. He jumped ahead and said right what I was thinking. I was like, man, I am kind of nervous about getting this tattoo. What are people gonna think? And then after that, I was like, no, no, I'm not fucking up. I want this tattoo. And he was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. But it was just like he jumped out and just said it to me to spark up that
Yeah.
feeling like that I was already feeling. So I think with my content or with what you're talking about, Pat, or what you're doing out here, Jack, is that we're just putting that shit right out there. What people are feeling internally, because a lot of people think about the same thing on a day-to-day basis internally.
Mm.
We're just saying it. We're just coming out and saying it instead of just like, getting around to the point. No, we're just going to go straight to it and say
Mm.
it. And whether it irritates you to where you want to disagree, or you're just like, you know what, he said what I've been thinking all along. Let me go ahead and start working on this, or let me go ahead and take this action here, and let me go ahead and do this. Because some
Mm.
people are scared to just say what they're feeling or what they're fucking thinking out loud.
Yeah.
And you sometimes it takes years of humiliation, years of fucking maybe being a bohemian part of a bohemian tribe in the fucking mountains or some shit, and going fucking crazy to understand, like, hey, yeah, I can say what I want. I can be who I want, and I stand firm on that. And
Yeah.
if anybody disagrees, I'm okay with talking to them about it, or even standing my ground on that.
Yeah.
And that develops like that mental clarity for a person, that develops that internal validation to where they can be more of themselves. But to
Yeah.
share that with other people, that I feel like that inspires people to take action internally.
You make a compelling argument to that. That's actually, I struggle with social media. I think in general it does way more harm than it does good. It was kind of the reason that I started the Fathers Guild, as I was off social media for about 2 years, and I came back on and was like, I can either keep bitching about what's out there or I can put out stuff I believe in. And all of a sudden it struck a chord with people, and I'm like, well, this is fascinating. There's a lot of people who want to have this conversation. But even now I sit back and I go, why am I doing this? Like, it's not a job. I don't make money from this. I just like sit around and I like put out my thoughts on fatherhood, but there's a lot of people who have engagement with it. And I get a lot of hate. And I get a lot of people who just tell me I'm a terrible person. And it's fascinating. And I don't take that personally, much like you're saying. But I to what you're saying, I really, it forces me to come up in their mind, right? When they think they disagree with something and they're going to go to do that thing again, but then I'm going to pop into their head, good, bad, or
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. And so all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden they've got this little bit of insight from the other perspective. Maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I should examine this closer. And that is change. That is making change for people as long as it's existing there. So
Yeah.
you've inspired me through that to not stop talking.
Please don't.
Interesting. I appreciate that. I think I liked listening to you work yourself all the way through from what you say inspires others to your also your own confidence around being authentic and putting stuff out. Um, because it sounds like you've been on that, you've gone through that journey in your life of caring, and then now you're like, no, this is where I'm at, but I'm also willing to be wrong. And I think that that's what a lot of people
That
don't
part.
understand, right?
That
Is
part.
like we can put something out with 100% confidence, and you're seeing a 60-second clip, but that's an entire lifetime of experience that led to me saying that with 100% confidence. And if you provide compelling evidence on the other side, not you're gay, like as a response, then
Yes.
I'm gonna probably be like, you know what? You're right. That's a different perspective. I might change my mind. Like, you're allowed to change your mind. Yeah, that's interesting.
So Pat, all right, I'm gonna let you talk, Jack, but I had to get this off my chest. Okay. So Pat, when you going off of what you were saying, like I do this little series, right? It's like a little mini series with my content. And it's called like four things I don't like. And I put up four things I don't like, and then the last one be something fucking silly, like maybe ground turkey or some type of food.
Right.
But it gets people so routed up in the comments because they're like, well, actually, this is wrong, and actually, this is right. And blah. I just said I didn't like it. It didn't have to be
Yeah,
right or wrong. I just said I didn't
totally.
like it. That's
Dude.
all. That's all. I was like, I'm trying to train you on your comprehension skills. Like, I just said I don't like it. And
Yeah.
so I was like, because I do those things, I also wanted to help people understand like you can express like openly like things that you don't like and not be afraid of them. Because
Sure.
some things people don't like, I may like, and I'd be like, well, I like that, so I disagree with you on that, but it's okay. It's
Sure.
completely fine. I can like something that you don't like, Pat. I can like something that you don't like, Jack. But at the end of the day, because I know, like, even just from this little conversation that we're having right now, I know that like I can understand you guys' core and what you're really wanting to do and where your intention is at. So like
Sure.
whatever you like or don't like, I disagree with, like that's cool. Like we can agree to disagree some fucking times. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. We don't have to be ops or enemies. Like,
No.
That's
How
the
do you
problem with
guys feel
society.
about comments?
I think they're hilarious. Me and Devin the other day talked about this. We posted something together. Someone went off on us, and I went and dug after them. For me, it's this is why I don't post what I feel. I'd rather talk. I've done interviews and all this shit. I like posting my kids and how their actions are, what the hell they've done, because I'll get caught up in comments. Me and
Mm.
my wife, and then I'll tell my wife, I'm like, this stupid bitch. She came and my wife was like, oh, a woman's in there. Hold on, let me. Let me get in there and I got that bitch. It's like, and then it's just
What?
like, sometimes I can feed off of it, but I do have fun with it. I will grift them a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah,
I
I love comments.
do you, Devin? Do you dig in and go back and forth and do stuff?
No, I love looking at them. Like I just be looking at them like, or I'll say something back because I'm like, my philosophy is I have six children of
Sure.
all ages. So I have teenagers, I got kids, middle-aged kids, and then I got toddlers and an infant, or I got a toddler and an infant. So it's like I get rage baited every day by them. Like
Hmm.
when I look at these comments, you can't fucking rage bait me. So I'll
Sure.
probably say something back to like piss them off or something, or not even, or just what I want to say back, and then I'll get like three more paragraphs. I'm just like, yeah, just talk to yourself in my comments, push the
Yeah.
engagement, get the message to who it needs to get to, and
Yeah.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
comments, man.
Yeah. I don't think I'm almost like half to the point where I'm never going to reply to a comment again because I don't know if it's ever worth my time or even read them. Like
Hmm.
if you want to talk to me,
Hmm.
go into my DMs. Like and it's not because like they affect me. It's more when I look at my life and I'm like, and I was just thinking about this is, you hear
Mm.
about those people on their deathbed and they're like, "Oh, I wish I would have done XYZ or I wish I would have lived in this way or been more loving." I'm wondering if I'm going to lie there and be like, I wish I spent less time on a screen. Like period, just less time. Like
Mm.
and I'm like, yeah, if I died right now, I would absolutely be like, I sure wish I spent less time reading
Oof.
other people's dumb shit in my comments. And it doesn't affect me on a core level because I know that's their toxicity, their own stuff they're going through being projected
Yep.
on me because I know who I am. But but I don't think I want to do it anymore. Like if and I'm happy to engage in direct messages. And I'm like people come and they
I
ask me
do a lot.
questions and and they're like they're almost always positive or inquisitive or like I've had probably in my entire time on this account, I think I've had one negative direct message. One. Like hundreds of positive. And I've had hundreds of negative comments, but like zero negative direct messages because I think comments are performative. People want to other people to see their interaction. They
Yeah,
don't really care
definitely.
about what they're saying even. They're like, and I'm always like, who's the guy who comments? Like, who takes life out of their day to be like, nah, you suck. Your kids are sucky and you're a bad person. Like you know how like I maybe you guys do this, but I've never in my life gone through an Instagram post, seen it. Like I've seen both your guys' posts, many of them. Stuff I agree with, stuff I disagree with. And I
Yep.
read it and I go, where does that fit in the context of my life? But I was not even remotely inclined to be like, let me say something. Like what? Why would I do that? Like what world is that like a meaningful use of my time? Like I'm
That
so
part.
I don't know, like, and maybe I'm the weird one, but like, yeah, I don't want to be on my
No.
deathbed being like I should have spent less time on screens. Like I like I don't want that. So I think I might just like every post be like, hey, if you want a response from me, don't comment. Send me a DM, you know,
Yep.
but feel free to talk to yourself in the comments. Like, and not to be mean, but
That's
just like I don't think it's meaningful. I don't think it helps.
that's that's my philosophy. I just kind of look at them. I look at the comments and engagement because I just kind of see like where it's trending. I'm just like like analyzing it from a social media perspective, like as a
Right.
content creator. So like I look at it like that, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is good engagement. So it's gonna push more on the algorithm, and it's gonna get to the
Sure.
people that it needs to get to. But I'm more of a DM guy too. Like I respond to DMs, and I do. I give people voice notes so they don't think I'm just giving them some like basic, generic,
Same.
salesy book a one-on-one call with me response, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'll engage with people in the DMs, and I think that's a lot of the reasons why even certain creators have the platforms that they have is their authenticity to engage directly with their audience. But in the comment section, no, I don't do too much of that. I might do it for a little bit of like chaos fun type thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
little chaos. So I'll do
Yeah.
like, nah, and then I'll just
Yeah.
let them talk to themselves for the rest of the time of the
Dude, the way I've always done that is I do it as a question. I never like make a statement in a comment. Like, and
Yeah.
previously when I've had these big reels that go viral, someone will say something that's just absurd. Like there's just no link, and I'll be like, "Do you really think that? Can you explain to me the process that happens?" And I'll ask the question for like hoping for a genuine response of like they're gonna somehow link me not yelling at my kids to my kids being trans. And it's like, what? Because like I've had that happen. The kids, like the comments will be like, dude, if you don't yell at your kids, they're gonna grow up trans. And I'm like, okay, well, can you please explain to me this process here? Like there's just the most ridiculous stuff. And you're like, so that's how I've poked fun at it. But even where I'm at now is I'm like, I don't think that's for me. Like, I don't think that that's like I understand playing the social media game, but just like you're saying, like paying attention to how the engagement's happening. It's especially if you have a message that you want to get out. And I do have a message that I want to get out around fatherhood. But I don't think I'm going to engage anymore. I think I'm kind of done with it, at least for the foreseeable future.
I think with fatherhood, a lot of us speaking out. I think one, the big brother doesn't want us to do that. I think that's a for sure. Like they just don't want us to tell other men like stop eating soy and fucking start eating meat and start fucking just like working out and becoming a fucking man again. And then there's two, the big thing. So I don't have following like you guys, so I don't have to worry about comments really. It's more my family who'll be like, "You asshole." I'll be like, "Oh, well, I've left the family years ago, I guess. So see ya." But you know,
We can talk about that more in a second, but like
all
we'll
right, yeah,
unpack
yeah.
that, Jack. No.
And so for me, it's like I don't know, man. They say like 60% of fucking comments are bots.
Yeah.
So it's like half the time
Yeah.
I look at the comments and I'll just write something bot right back and be like, dude, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Get the fuck out of here. Like you see so many bots on here that like make comments that have nothing to do with the post. You're like, what are
Totally.
you
Yep.
talking about? How do you know me
Yep.
off of like one thing or like I post my kids. That's what I do. I post them fucking being bad motherfuckers and they're 5-1. You saw how bad can they be? It's like
Right.
but it
Bro.
just shows them like what kind of style I have, and there's not much people can say except for like I'll have some idiots come on sometimes because I'm posting my kids. You shouldn't post your kids. Blah 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 blah. I don't need your advice. I live in Mexico. I'm not in America. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. And
Yeah.
it's like so I don't really need to worry. It literally comes back to family almost every time, Pat. Every
Mm.
time.
Mm.
No, seriously. I think, even like going to what Jack was saying, like they really don't like when you talk about like a different perspective of like a man as a father, because you got to think about it, like the way we're programmed in this whole like mess of society or whatever we want to call it is that the man nowadays, both men and women are working hard as fuck right now, right?
Mm.
But the man normally is the man that goes, he's the breadwinner, goes to work, comes home. The children only get, from my perspective of what it was with my dad, I only got like the tired and worst of my dad, right?
Mm.
And never got the dad in the day like working hard to build this or do that. That was like where his energy was highest throughout the day when he's working, grinding. But when he comes home, energy is low because he's tired from work. He wants to eat food, like he's hangry. So like now he's fucking yelling at everybody because shit may be messy. We're kids, stuff gets all over the place sometimes, right? So it's like we only see that aspect of our fathers and we think, okay, cool, as children, like that's how men are supposed to be, at least from my experience. That's how men are supposed to be. You don't have time for like, filling out what emotions is this or what you're fucking feeling. It's more so
Yeah.
get your ass to work, do this, do what the fuck you're supposed to do, feed your family, provide, protect. And only that one dimension of providing or provision and protection that we're
Sure.
supposed to give our family. And I think that's when you talk about anything else, like even when you said your red pill moment of how like that pop in the balloon made your son eyes feel like it made him basically you like, dang man, like that was just an initial response because
Yeah.
we've been trained to like, hey, if the kids don't act right, sit down, do this. Like we
Mm.
go straight into authoritarian mode instead of being like, damn, like when I was a kid, like I used to do stupid shit like that.
Totally.
You know? So when they see that, or when they see a man speaking on that, they're like, oh no, that's too much fucking emotional awareness coming from a man. Like, fuck, he's gonna infiltrate.
When you guys both speak about this, you say they. Do you mean like you say big brother, you say they, like do you literally mean like governmental organizations, or do you mean like more like the Meta's algorithm and things along those lines? I'm just
I think
curious.
the same. I think it's the same. I think the
Okay.
Jewish supremacy has taken over the entire fucking world. They've taken over Meta. They've taken
The
over
what?
fucking Jewish supremacy.
Oh
This,
my God, are you going straight Nazi on me?
bro, it's 100%. I mean, look who owns all the channels. Look who owns
Are
all
you
the fucking
actually
systems.
heading down the
Bro,
religious route?
bro, it has to be. I've looked into, like, I've tried to flip so many
Jack,
this.
I feel like you're on a pendulum swing right now, and you're welcome
Oh,
to explore this avenue, but I urge you to continue to be open-minded to
I am.
being
But I'm saying
incorrect.
who owns all these systems? Who
I'm not
owns them?
saying you're incorrect
That's
with
what
a
I'm
lot of
saying.
people who own them. I'm just
I'm
saying,
not saying Jews. I'm saying Jewish supremacy. I'm saying the people who own everything. The top-notch people, Pat. I'm saying
this is how you take your podcast from top 20 in Spotify and Apple and pull it down to top 0.
no, we already have like a bunch of these. We have flat Earth ones. We have feminist movements.
Well,
We have
but
all kinds.
I,
But
the reason I ask, and I do think that that's a funny route to go down that you were just saying there, and I say funny because to me, I don't know why you would waste your headspace considering that, because to
I'm gonna
me
give you
it's
an answer after I listen.
you can because to me like there's so much in front of us that we have to focus on of our
Okay.
own well-being, and spending your time thinking about where things go and how they're orchestrated is like outside the necessity for daily life for living. So
Agreed.
to buy, and I'm not against conspiracies, and I'm not against, there's been plenty of things that have been proven correct over the years, and I'm not opposed to anything like that. But to invest time into it, when you have so much shit in your life that you need to invest your time into for your own personal well-being, it's like, why? Why go that
Mhm.
route? Why spend the mental space to do that other than to scratch a desire to explain existence? And you could
True.
kind of relate it to a connection with maybe back in the day, God, or the like this inability to examine the universe, but like your desire to want to imprint a reason for things. Hey, this post didn't go as viral because of X, Y, Z, and I'm not saying there's not reasons for that. Like I feel like every time I post something that involves anti-social media, I don't get any attention on it. Like when it's saying put your phone down, do this kind of stuff, it's like those posts don't go anywhere, even though I know that conversation is really, really
It needs to be
prevalent.
had. Yeah.
And so I'm like, there's got to be, if I was a company, a private organization, I'm not saying I'm evil, but I'm capitalistic and I'm trying to make money, which I'm going to be like, if someone's saying don't use my device, I'm going to use technology to tell them to not continue to propagate that idea. So it to
Right.
me that makes sense. So I get it, the desire to head those directions, but why waste your time doing that? Why waste
I
your
won't say
time digging into those worlds?
I wouldn't say it's wasteful if you're trying to find the truth to some question. Now, I don't dig like
I don't
crazy.
think there is a truth.
I think there is. I think we can peel back some of these layers. I'm a historian, like that's my degree is history, right? And
Sure.
so I've done a lot of the study just through university, not through like my own fucking time. Don't get me wrong. Like once in a while, someone sends me something, I'm like, let me look into it, and I'll look further than they probably will, just because I'm a nerd. But like, I look at the Weimar Republic, and I look what fucking happened in Germany and before World War II. And if you don't know any of that, that's just crazy. And who was it pushed by? It was pushed by the same people who are running everything right now. And then why is when the government shut down, we're still sending money to Israel? Who runs Israel? Who runs all of America? So there's just so many ties and everything's so weaved together that if you could pull back some layers, especially like you go back to World War I, you look at the Ottoman Empire. Why was that torn apart? Oh, I could give you many reasons on that. And there's many holes right there. But it always comes back to the same players that are controlling it. It's the people
But
who
why invest your time thinking about it? Who gives a shit?
oh,
You
I
think
don't.
you
Oh, I
have
don't.
impact here? Like
No, no,
you
no.
can affect
I,
you. Like who cares? Like
I mean, that's not like I'm not saying like I sit here and like telling my wife all day like this, and this. after this conversation, it won't be talked about all week, all
All
day. You know
right.
what I mean? No, so
All right.
it's just something in the back of my mind that I keep like, nah, you ain't gonna trick me on this one. No, you ain't gonna get me again. You know what I mean? It's more about like the knowledge I keep instead of like spreading the awareness. That's why you don't hear me on like my social being like, hey guys, Earth's flat, fucking Mickey Mouse is bullshit, NASA's bullshit. You know, I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't do that because I don't believe that. Like that's a bad energy. So I'm not trying to bring
Sure.
that energy to someone. And I don't think you should be stuck in that mind space. Same with the
yeah,
people like during COVID and they just stuck on COVID deaths. It's like, dude, you don't want that frequency all the fucking time inside of you. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's just knowledge
yeah.
for me to be like, how can I lead my family better and make sure I'm not into the system as much as I want to be or
Sure.
dabble in and out of the system? And how can we manipulate that system then for our benefit? Does that make sense?
I like I like both of you guys. It's like take when I say they, I say like in general because a lot of people are programmed a certain way to think a
Sure.
certain way, right?
Sure.
Um, do I believe in what Jack is saying? I have my beliefs around that, yes.
Sure.
But at the same time, like my overall stance on it is what where the attention goes, the energy flows, right? And
Sure.
like at the end of the day, I look at it like this. Okay, these people like so all of the people post on social media about like not I don't want to call it conspiracy because that's not my lead said it's not a conspiracy, but they post about these people running the entire world and blah 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 and this and that, and we keep talking about these people running the entire world, and I'm just like, no, not my reality. No,
Yeah.
like I'm over here living with my wife, my children. This is what I'm doing over here, and I feel like as my message to all the individuals around is like take back your own power. Like I even agree with you as far as the screens. Like put the shit down, right? Because sometimes we put shit on the outside of us externally and we put so much power or we give the illusion
Right.
that this shit is controlling us. Whole time is just our internal focus on that shit. So
Yeah.
it's like my thing is if you become more like internally focused and you become more like well-rounded and on the inside you be so much more validated you won't even have to like give anything outside of you power if you don't
Yep.
want to.
Yep.
And I feel like overall for that can like negate a lot of the craziness that is going on in the world or that's being shown to us
Yeah.
by the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, like but Jack, we always go down that rabbit hole anytime. But I overall for human beings I would want people to just be a lot better. I think we all have our things that make us be like, yeah, like for me, for the longest, it was like fucking video games and shit. Like it was just like I know that this is not fucking good, but like I have to play this video game. That was like my thing, right? And sometimes like looking like Jack history is his thing, like where it's like he doesn't focus on it hard enough, but that's his thing, right?
Right.
And Pat, you may even have your thing where it's like, yeah, I know this is not good, but fuck it, like like
Right.
every now and again. And
Yeah.
I think, for humans, that pendulum swing that you were talking about. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I,
I'm not gonna lie, you opened my eyes to a lot of shit, bro, perspective wise.
well, I appreciate the statement, man. I, I, uh, I think it's worth always examining. I think it's worth just looking at your life and being like, where am I putting my time? Where am I putting my energy and why? Just like you said, like where you put your focus, your energy flows that way. As woo as that sounds, there's a very reality
Yep.
to that. You're like, you focus on something, that's where everything's gonna go, like good, bad, or otherwise. I think when I heard you say something there, Devin, is like basically being good to the people in your lives that are actually in your life and putting your focus there. Like it doesn't really like the fact that we can contact the entire world and I can put stuff out that hundreds and thousands of people see is so artificial and weird. Like through most of human history,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a thing. So these collective consciousnesses around, who's controlling what or what's doing where or whatever is like stuff that we would never have had access to. We would have been completely blind to through most of human history. So there's a positive side to that to where we can start to avoid things that we're like, that seems sketch, or we can better prepare our minds. But the thing that really matters is in our lives, like not in this, but in our daily lives, Am I good to my kids? Am I good to my wife? Am I good to the person that I like see at the neighborhood laundromat? Like the whatever it is, 150 people that we can call true friends, or the 150 people we can call real acquaintances. Are we actually good to those people? Do those people know the real version of us? Are we living authentic to them, not to this? Like, are we not like I don't care how you view me on the internet. You don't know me. Like none of you know me. Like you can say whatever the shit you want on my social media account. Like, but the people in my life who know me are gonna be like, that's a good guy. That's a good man. And I'm gonna and in addition to that, my focus isn't gonna be how to please or how to connect with the larger world. I do have some of that because I have a social media profile and I have a voice. I should use it. But it's going to be about, can I be a good man to the people in my life? And that's it. Like, and can I be true to myself? And none of the social media stuff matters with that. None of the control matters with that, other than like it's more information. Just like, can I be good to the people in my life and learn stuff, but be good? Like that's what I want. That's what I want for everyone.
I like
Like,
that.
stop paying attention to anything outside that. If you are paying attention to stuff outside that, you're either extremely privileged because you're so good at to the people in your life that you have the mental space to not even worry about that anymore. And I would guess that
I
most
think
people
that's
are not
fair.
there, or you're distracted and you need to rein in your attention. Those are the two people you could be. And I think most people are in the distracted zone, not in the I'm just crushing life right now zone.
I agree. No, I agree. And Pat,
I
I
agree.
think like the real change 100% starts at home. It starts right here in the core
For
of
sure.
like being a father, being a leader, your wife being at her best, you being at your best, raising kids to that are unstoppable, unfucking
Sure.
stoppable. They're grounded. They know they're who they are. They're confident. That's the way for the future, 100%.
Hell
But
yeah.
also, if my son asks me if fucking dinosaurs are real, I have to go look up that was true or not. You know,
Right. Well,
and then I'll
but
say,
actually that's a really good that's a good example. I think there are many things that are outside our ability to have a firm answer on that we should be providing the information on both sides and then providing our perception of it. So when
Yeah.
someone says, "Who do you vote for, Dad?" And I say, "I vote for this person because of these things. However, people don't like this person because of X, Y, Z. So people like your grandma, for instance, she believes da 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 da, and she's gonna da 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 da. But I personally do this because this makes the most sense to me." That conversation is very different than the other side's the worst. And I think that that's what a lot of us do is we hunker down, even those enlightened ones, we hunker down and know everyone needs to do this. And it's like, no, dude, like we need to, for
Mm-mm.
our kids, be
Yeah.
providing that well-rounded conversation. And if
Yeah.
we don't, who we're just as bad as everyone else.
yes,
That's literally the perspective I take with my children. Like I
Yeah,
give
dude,
them both sides of the coin, and then I like tell them why I'm where I'm at on that
totally.
stance. I give them my take on it, and it creates like dialogue. You'd be surprised like how like expansive like their consciousness becomes when you talk to them like that. Because now you asking them open ended questions, they're asking you open ended questions. You're
Yep.
developing responses. So now you teaching them how to communicate effectively. Yeah, I
I'm with
fuck
you.
with
I agree with you, Pat. That's the same thing for us. My wife would get on my ass if I didn't give both sides. If we didn't give both sides and then give an opinion, this is Dad's opinion. You're gonna have to create your own as you go. And this is a 5-year-old who, like, my oldest is 5.5, and he's just
You,
like, I mean, he's
you,
wicked smart though. Like, he's been doing math since 2 years old. He's been doing like crazy shit that like other parents probably
it.
wouldn't trust a kid to
I love
do.
that.
My son goes to the fruiteria by himself. That was 3 streets over at 4 years old, and people are like, "Dude, you're crazy." I get that was a big one where people would always come at me. Is like I
yeah.
allow my kid to do too much freedom, but also like I'm growing a fucking man. I always tell him, I'm like, I'm raising a man, and he's going to be tough. My kid goes to
Sure.
jujitsu. I had people yell at me because he goes to jujitsu and Muay Thai, and they're like, he's gonna be abuser and all this shit. Like, dude, what are
You're
you
like,
talking?
dude, you realize that's the
Quite the
opposite of those
opposite.
worlds, right?
It's
Like,
quite the
like
opposite.
Like, what
the
the fuck are
dead
you talking
opposite.
about?
Tell me you don't understand either of these worlds without telling me you don't understand either of these
I,
worlds.
I know. So it's just wild. So like that's why I do now in my head. It's like I am privileged. I am very privileged to be able to stay home, homeschool all day with my kids, take them to however wherever I want. And I live in a beautiful area, San Miguel de Allende. And so yes, I get a chance to like break some of these things down. That's where I go down the rabbit holes, guys. It's not I sit all day and I'm like, because I've met people like that, and that's crazy shit. That's like you're way too far down there, and you need to come back to reality. I stay
Yeah.
up
Like, bro,
late, and I'll study with my son. That's what I
I've
will do.
seen dudes like that too. I'm like, bro, like, when's the last time you showered, dog? Like,
Yeah.
you okay? Like,
Well,
go
I
take a
mean, we're
walk,
laughing,
man.
but it's real, dude.
Sure,
Like, I
no,
see people who are like, they're on social forums and internets and doing all this stuff, but
that's
they
crazy.
don't eat. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you offering your opinion on global politics while not taking care of yourself? Like, this is crazy. This is
Great.
absolutely crazy. It's like, anyway, I appreciate
Yeah,
you
bro.
guys' time. You guys are awesome. I appreciate the conversation. Like anytime you ever want to chat, I'm always down.
No, this was awesome. We are coming up on an hour, so Pat, the way we end it is we're gonna go right in order. I'll close out, Devin, and you're gonna give us the final word to
Am
close
I?
out the show. Yeah, absolutely, you are. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Pat, thanks for being here, bro. Every time I've talked with you, it's always fun. It is enlightening, like Devin said, dude. I learned so much from you. I love your content, Devin. Thanks again for filling the seat, bro. We'll be texting back and forth like we normally do. And
Always.
guys, just have a great day. Devin, I'll pass it on over to you.
What I would say, y'all, is, you know, invest in yourself, whether it's healthy foods, whether it's a book, whether it's invest into yourself. Your network is your network. Get around people that challenge you to think differently. I was challenged to think differently, just as you guys seen here in live action, by someone incredibly that I think is incredibly intelligent as I get to know more of. By two gentlemen that are incredibly intelligent. So like get around people that challenge you to think more, invest into yourself more, and just work on yourself before you can work on anything else.
Yeah. Well, I just like to state that I recognize my psychological privilege of being raised by amazing parents and a lot of freedom and space to make the mistakes and not feel shame around that. And I'd like to recognize that there's a lot of people who are not in that place. However, the one thing we all eventually, if we come to terms with it, have control over is our responses to things in the world and our ownership we take over ourselves and our actions. There's a lot of stuff happening to us, and we'll be in very different places, and the same thing won't change the same like everyone. Like I can't say, hey, do this, and it'll make you better. But like at a core level, we all have an ability to carry on like some ownership over the actions that we take. And that might be really tiny, like the color of a pencil that you purchase versus, you're getting this nice expensive pen or whatever it is. But I think taking ownership over ourselves and being honest with ourselves are the two things that all of us have an opportunity to do, is just head that direction. If you want a great book on it, read Man's Search for Meaning. I think Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is probably one of the more compelling arguments for people being in very austere situations, finding meaning in the mundane and taking ownership over what they can take ownership over and how profoundly that changes their psychology. So I do recognize my privilege in my thought and my freedom that I have, but at the same time, there it comes down to like just like Devin said earlier, I can't make you change. You can't make anyone do. I can't do it for you. The only person who could ever do anything for you is you, and it comes down to tiny little changes compounding over time with action.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. No, that's agreed, 100%. Guys, thanks for being here. Don't forget, share the show. It's the only way we grow. So, Pat, Devin, have a great day. We'll see you guys.